South Korea was one of America's closest allies, but now the country is falling to communist influence from China and North Korea. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Before we start, I want you to smash that like button. That's a huge help with YouTube's algorithms, and we need all the help we can get fighting it. And if you like the show, please subscribe. So, ever since taking office in 2017, the president of South Korea, Moon JaeIn, has been pushing for closer ties to China and, unbelievably, North Korea. That kind of didn't sit well with a lot of South Koreans. You know what with the whole North Korea threatens to turn South Korea's capital into a sea of flames thing. But this April, Moon Jae-in's party won a landslide victory in the legislative election. That means President Moon has been able to push through legislation like this, banning people from sending leaflets into North Korea with uncensored information. Kim Jong-un really didn't like North Koreans reading those leaflets. So Moon's party did him a solid. But that's what the people of South Korea wanted, right? After all, Moon's party won in a landslide, right? Well, as we talked about on this episode of the China Unscripted Podcast, there have been widespread allegations of voter fraud, and China may have had a hand in it. Joining me now is North Korean defector and author Young-mi Park. Young-mi, thanks for joining me again. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Well, so new legislation has been passed in South Korea that makes it illegal for South Koreans to send leaflets into North Korea. First, what did those leaflets mean to the people in North Korea?
It just means a lot of things. When I was in North Korea, I actually didn't get to personally pick up the leaflet because I was living in the border town. However, there are so many the regime warnings to us. Like if you ever see a leaflet, the South Koreans put a poison in it, do not pick it up. And we hear about stories how people, get to know the outside world through picking up these leaflets. So what this leaflet does is like providing truth, information to North Korean people that they do not get from the state government media. And the second one is also a symbolic thing, that it reminding North Koreans that they are not alone in this, that people outside the world care about them and cheering for them. So it is so heartbreaking how this most important thing that is being banned in South Korea in free democracy.
Well, so what impact do you think banning these leaflets will have?
It will have a lot of things. The first thing, the South Korean, now I don't want to even call government, the Moon administration, they confirmed that how they are treating North Korean defectors in South Korea, which is treating us like second citizens. People talk about systemic racism in the Western civilization, but that is happening in South Korea. Actually, the South Korean government systemically discriminates North Korean defectors living there. Even though we are South Korean citizens, we cannot hold certain positions in the government because they think we can be a spy, we can be a terrorist. And also we have a freedom of speech. It is under the constitution that is protected. But because we are North Koreans, we do not have the right to practice our freedom of speech, which is sending leaflets to North Korea through balloon launches in the border towns.
Well, why do you think Moon Jae-in's government banned the leaflets?
Well, he's very known lover of communism and Kim Jong-un for all his life. So the reason why he chose to not do the right thing and silencing defectors who are risking their life to free their people, he chose to please Kim Jong-un. So which means that Kim Jong-un gets really bothered by this information inflow. This is how impactful these informations are. Like Kim Jong-un doesn't want to start the war over a lot of things, but whenever this balloon's going into North Korea, Kim Jong-un gets really offended and demands South Korea to stop it. And Moon Jae-in, of course, the puppet of Kim Jong-un, so he's gonna do that for Kim Jong-un.
You really think the situation is that bad, that Moon Jae-in is just a puppet of North Korea and Possibly China?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. He's even before he became the president, his whole career was dedicated to help the dictator in North Korea. He was serving the Roh Moo-hyun, the previous Democrat liberal president. Before him was Kim Dae-jung. And Moon Jae-in is whole dedicating his life to bring socialism and communism to South Korea, and also, let the dictator to survive and maintain his power in the North. That is his whole entire career mission has been.
So how did it get to be that the president of South Korea has such pro-North Korean feelings?
It is a mystery gonna be for me too, like how this is possible. The flourishing democracy, it was the beacon of hope for a lot of Asian countries in that region. Suddenly elected this guy who is so pro-communism and socialism and dictatorship. I think that is the thing. Like freedom is fragile, and the thing is that it's not even in South Korea. A lot of developed economies in the world. Once you are rich and comfortable for a while, right, you can be afford to be a dreamer and thinking about socialism. And this has been, I think, global trend in South Korea, in America, in anywhere. I think really, literally right now, it's a huge trend where people are wanting something like socialism because they've been too comfortable, I think.
So how is the current government in South Korea getting more friendly with China and North Korea?
But though now Moon Jae-in is very looking forward to having Biden in the office in America. They did not really have a good relationship with Trump before. Moon Jae-in is very pro Xi Jinping and therefore pro Kim Jong-un as well. And so they didn't like that much with Trump, but they are really happy for Biden to be in the office and looking forward to having a good relationship again.
So you mentioned North Koreans aren't treated very well in South Korea. Has it gotten worse over the years, or what's been going on?
I mean, right, it definitely got really, really worse with Moon Jae-in. Before then, there was some like effort in South Korean government to try to avoid that. So at some point, they were even letting North Korean men like to go to military. Before that, it was illegal for us to go to military in South Korea. But Moon Jae-in now like criminalizing so many things that defectors cannot do. And for instance, what Moon did was that there was during the peace talks with North Korea in the last couple of years and with America, there was one North Korean defector who was journalist from the major newspaper, and they were banning him because just simply he was a North Korean defector. So he couldn't go report about that peaceful summit that he had with Kim Jong-un. So yeah, this talking about systemic racism, this is like what systemic racism looks like. Even though with the same citizenship we have, we cannot hold the same jobs, we sent to prison for the same things that South Koreans wouldn't go to jail for.
I guess I just really don't understand it. What could possibly be the appeal of being closer with a horrible regime like North Korea?
I think it just why would some people would not like socialism and communism? We have to look at their heads. I think what Moon initially in the past, the North Korea did plant a lot of spies and feeding this ideology and brainwashing them that North Korea is very, very good at. Like even in today's world, like YouTube, you can see this North Korea propaganda channels like Echoes of Truth and other places. But North Korea has been doing that so much in South Korea, and they're planting their allies there. And I think in college campuses, they study Juche ideology that North Korea holds as a almost, philosophy. So I think Moon was influenced by the ideology when he was young, when he was in college, and he was in this a lot of the peaceful North South Korea was not for democracy back then. He was looking for some democracy, but I think he went too far with it. So just he became a communist. So I don't know what's going on in his eyes actually really.
Also, how do people in South Korea in general feel about communism?
Young people really definitely like it. The young people actually singing songs like the true leader in our Korean peninsula is like Kim Jong-un. and they are dreaming of becoming like North Korea someday. They think America is their enemy, sworn enemy. Like exactly what North Korea preaches to North Koreans, right? They demonize America, they demonize Japan's and like free democracy, then like worship this ideology called like worshiping Kim's and Juche and socialism. So I wouldn't really say even like a lot of North Korean defectors after experiencing this authoritarian dictatorship, they still just fall into this promise of the government gonna take care of your future, your happiness, your college education, your health care. So even defectors falling into this false promise that government is God and can do everything for you. So I don't know. I feel so, helpless. Even after experiencing that much oppression, they still fall for it.
I mean, I know it must be difficult. You fled North Korea and risked your life to get to South Korea at one point, so this must be shocking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also the thing that is very lucky to me that I came to America, so I have no much threat going to jail for what I'm doing right now. I'm speaking out against North Korean dictatorship and also talking about South Korean government critically is gonna get a lot of people in trouble now. And I wouldn't dare to now go to South Korea with the South Korean citizenship. I'm waiting to go back once I become American citizen because I might get arrested there too in South Korea actually.
Well, speaking of that, I know there have been accusations that in South Korea this year's legislative election was rigged. South Korea also has some pretty insane libel laws that make it almost impossible to talk about that. But what are your thoughts?
The fact that Moon Jae-in, as soon as he got into office, he sent two previous presidents who were not liberal, who were in a more conservative party, sent to prison. They were sentences more than like 20 something years. It's not like they were rapists or murderers, right? It's something so awful about it. He changed the entire people in the intelligence everywhere and just switching up all entire people. It's like, in North Korea, I saw a lot of purges whenever new Kim comes up. But, thankfully, there was not much, I wouldn't want to say thankfully, but, there were not too many Kims. Each one comes in, they hold power for some time. But in South Korea, every 5 years. But whenever these liberals come in South Korea, they do this like similar thing called the Great Purge. Remove everybody that disagrees with them and has like more free market views. And they went to extreme to the part where they are sentencing and sending their ex-presidents into jail and sentencing them more than like 10, 20 years. That is like I think the world is like deceived by the idea like of K-pop and freedom in South Korea, but definitely South Korea is not free right now with the moon.
Wow. Well, I'd like to at least end on some good news. You've started an amazing new channel about your experiences in North Korea, and the channel really is blowing up. Why do you think people are so fascinated by North Korea?
I think even though the governments, even U.S. administration, the EU, UN, what they are actually caring about is nukes, right? They try to remove this security threat posed to the U.S., Japan, South Korea. But when it comes to individuals, I think people have way more warmer hearts and care about human rights. So I think when governments just their approach to talk about North Korea has always been talking about the nuclear threat and dictatorship. And I think when I talk about the people's story of North Korea, that's when I get the most response from people. I think ultimately, we get touched by people's story, and I think people really care about what is happening to the 25 millions of North Korean people, not just the nukes or nuclear like Kim Jong-un.
Well, thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'll be sure to put a link to your channel below. I highly recommend it.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Chris.
Be sure to check out Youngmi's YouTube channel, Voice of North Korea. I'll put a link below and in the end screen. She has a million super interesting stories about everything from daily life in North Korea to Kim Jong-un's pleasure squad. And if you want more of this interview, watch our hour-long podcast with Yeonmi on our other channel, China Unscripted. The link is below. Thanks for watching China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.